And you hear these terms like away with the fairies, away with the fae, airy fairy, because people that do tend to work with fairies can be very away. It's very airy. It does take you out of being grounded. So being grounded is super, super important because you have to start from that. Otherwise, you'll just float away because it's very enticing in the fairy realms. You know, there's this fairy glamour and magic, and it makes you want to want to go into it. So I would always suggest grounding yourself before you do any type of spiritual work, whether it's with the fairies or any other beings.
Welcome to New Earth Podcast, where we dive into inspiring stories, profound wisdom, and insights from remarkable individuals who are driving the consciousness shift on our planet. If you're ready to elevate your awareness and well-being, you're in the right place. But before we dive into today's episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. Together, we'll continue to explore the ideas and conversations that help you up-level your consciousness. Thank you so much for your support and your comments and for being part of this journey. What if the world is far more magical than we've been taught? My guest today is Karen Kay, the fairy whisperer and author and lifelong communicator with the elemental realms. Her work encourages people to reconnect with nature, listen to their intuition, and rediscover the sense of wonder that's often missed in our modern world. Welcome, Karen. So delighted to have you on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation, Sarah. This is such an honour for me. I'm so happy to have a chat with you.
It's so beautiful, and it's promising to be such a magical episode, and we'd really love to hear all the stories from people at home as well, your own experiences with connecting with fairies. So do drop your own stories in the comments so we can really start to build that sense of magic and wonder for each other. So Karen, I've understand that you've been connecting with fairies since you were a child. Can you take us back through some of those early connections, and at what point did you realize that it was going to be such an important part of your work?
So, yeah, I started connecting with fairies when I was a little girl. I was living with my grandmother at the time, and she loved flowers, she loved gardening, and she was always in her garden. Or my memory of, obviously she wasn't, but I always remember her being in her garden. And also I remember her having two neighbours who just reminded me of gnomes. They were two brothers, and they were quite rotund and jolly, and my memory of them is that she had gnomes next door, which wouldn't surprise me at all. And I was only tiny, so it was all, my ego hadn't kicked in at that point, so it was all very experiential and very natural to me. And I recall she used to prune her roses, and as the petals would fall to the ground, I would scoop them all up, put them in a bowl, add some water, and then I would create perfume for the flower fairies. It was actually rose water, but in my little heart I was just making perfume as a gift, as an offering for the flower fairies. And I would leave it out in a liminal space, which would be between my nan's garage and the neighbour's garage, and it was tiny, like this little space. And when I think about it now, I have no idea why I chose that space to leave an offering for the fairies, but I did. And then I'd go back the following morning. I didn't do it every day, but I did it fairly frequently. And I'd go back the following morning and it would be gone. Now, the more kind of skeptical, scientifically minded people might say, well, of course, the water evaporated and da 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 da. And it's like, yeah, that is a possibility. But I knew intuitively at that young age that the fairies had taken my gift and accepted it. So that meant a lot to me. So that was my first memory. And I do feel that I've had like past lives, or I've even incarnated as a fairy being and have fairy DNA. But my memory of this lifetime is, it starts then. And I also recall seeing tiny points of light, fairy lights, if you like, and they would almost be like penetrating this realm, this dimension from their dimension, which is parallel to ours. Again, at that time, I didn't know what it was. I just saw these lights and it was just natural. And they would be kind of almost dancing around the garden, or I would just see them everywhere. And again, that was very natural to me. It was second nature to me. It didn't phase me. It was just part of what was going on. And then kind of jumping forward, I do tend to digress and go around the houses quite a lot. So jumping forward to when I was a teenager, and I had a rebellious phase, as many of us do, and I was into like punk and post punk and the gothic scene and everything. And I was thinking, well, I don't know if fairies are cool. And by that time, they were with me all the time, but at that point, I just felt like, oh, I don't know if this is cool or not. And maybe there's something wrong with my eyes, which is why I'm seeing all of these lights. So I went to the opticians and I didn't say, hey, I think I'm seeing fairies. I just went for a standard general eye test and I had 20/20 perfect vision. And so that was my confirmation that what I was seeing was real, although I knew it intuitively, instinctively. But sometimes, as the mind, the ego develops, we get hungry with all of these questions and we need to know. So as soon as I knew for sure, it was like, okay, this isn't going to go away. It's been with me my whole life. And so I kind of incorporated the fairy energy into my life, even though I was living in London at the time, in the city. I was a bit of a party girl, and but I remember I would even dress up as like a punk fairy with like a black tutu and little wings, black wings, and it was coming into my life in lots of different ways. And again, it wasn't even really consciously, it was just happening. And when I look back at the pictures now, it all kind of makes sense. So they've just been with me. And then moving on to your second part of that question about when did I know that they were going to kind of really take over my life, which is kind of what's happened. It was probably, I would say, in the early 2000s, late 1999. And I that's when things kind of unfolded. So I'd been approached for many times by media and I don't know how they found me, and I don't know, but they would approach me and they wanted me to do things and talk about fairies, and I was like, no, 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 no. I just, many fairy people hide. They're loners. They tend to be alone a lot of the time, and they don't really want to be seen. They feel very different, like many of us do, for different reasons. And I just kept saying no, 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 no. That was my kind of affirmation, my mantra, if you like. I would just say no to everything because I didn't want to be seen. And I know in retrospect that was because my ego was stopping me sharing what was in my heart. I was more concerned about what I looked like, how big I was, how, all of these kind of very human things, which is fine. We're human, we experience these things. And then I'm not sure, I was always putting other people forward. It's like, well, I'm not going to do it, but I do know somebody else. So I was always kind of promoting other people. And I started doing events, and through the events, I was again promoting people. And then it got to a point where I was being asked so much, I thought, I'm going to change the narrative here and I'm going to turn my no into a yes. And I'm going to start saying yes, which is me saying yes to life, to the flow, but only if it feels right. So I'll say yes, but if I get a really strong gut instinct that is no, then I'll say no. But I decided I'll just say yes. And then basically the metaphorical fairy doors have kind of swung open, and
Yeah.
I'm just doing stuff all the time now. So and I love it. I love sharing about it.
And you were a BBC News editor for a while there, so that must have been quite a bridge to cross into that kind of fairy whisperer world from that sort of more corporate background.
Yeah.
Was there a
Yeah.
lot of letting go and transition in that process for you?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And So I worked as a broadcast journalist. And the reason I just want to give a bit of a backstory in this, because the reason that I wanted to do that was I perceived this box, you know, like whether it's the TV, the radio, whatever it is, as something that had a lot of control over the masses, and a lot of negative news was coming out. So I don't know if it was a self-given mission or a spiritually led mission, I don't know, but I had this passion, this mission that I wanted to get inside that box and shine some light out into the world. So I started by volunteering at a radio help desk, and then I got asked to be a broadcast assistant, and then I became a journalist. But you can only go so far. You have to have like the qualifications. So I was then advised that if I wanted to go further, I would need to go in as a mature student and do a postgraduate diploma in broadcast journalism, media law, all the things. And again, just leaping back for a moment, when I was at school, I said to them, you can't teach me anything that I want to do in my life. I want to be a musician, I want to be a model, I want to be a singer, I want to be an actress, all of these things, and you can't teach me any of that. So I literally left school with nothing. Like I think I left when I was 15. I'm not encouraging anybody, any of our younger listeners to do that, but that's what I did. And I consciously kept my head empty because I wanted it to be filled with the things that I wanted and to make room for spirit. I was aware of that at a very young age. So then moving forward to when I was told to, if I wanted to pursue this journalism, that I needed to have these qualifications if I was really going to progress. So I put myself through as a mature student. I think I was 40 at the time, around that age, and everyone else was about 18 in the class. A lot of them didn't even want to be there. They were just there because they kind of pushed through the system. But I was hungry for this. I was hungry for the knowledge, and I wanted to soak it all up. And the interesting thing is that as a part of the course, media law was quite heavily a part of it for obvious reasons. And I lapped it up, and I was so surprised because I didn't think that would be my thing, but it really made sense. And it may have been also something to do with the teacher was really lovely, and he was very nice and very helpful. And I think he was really happy that there was someone there who actually wanted to learn. So I did all this. And then before I left that course, it was hard, like it was challenging because I didn't have my degree was a degree in life that got me through to the postgraduate diploma, which I'm very grateful for. And I was offered a job as before I left the course in an independent radio station as the news editor, so the person that ran the newsroom. Immediately out of that course into that, and then very shortly after I got offered the job at the BBC. So it was all, it just flowed, it unfolded as I felt, and as I felt it would, but it wasn't easy. It was really, really hard work because I was also a mother of two young children as well. So it was juggling everything. But I was so determined. And I think, as many of us know, when we have this passion, this drive, nothing is insurmountable. It's like we flow around the obstacles, but we get around them, or we go over them, or we go under them, or we get there. So it was a big achievement for me that I'm proud of in my human life. And then I remember I loved the environment initially, and then as a sensitive, as an empath, it soon became very, it was very harsh energetically for me because it was just constantly, it's negative news, isn't it, mostly on the news, and it was kind of getting to me. And then the moment that I had that I can't do this anymore, that moment was 9/11, when that happened, because I was on duty, I was on shift at that point, and I'd been asked by my superior to do an interview with somebody who was at the ground zero who had lost her husband, and there was a Cornish connection, so that's why we were running this particular story. And so I was told to get some emotion out of her, and it like that didn't sit right with me. And so I'm speaking to this woman who doesn't know if her husband is alive or not. She doesn't know. And I just said to her, look, who have you got with you? And she just said, I'm surrounded by journalists. And I said, please go and find a friend, go get out of that situation. I'm going to stop recording, which I did. The human, the heart, the part of me that I could not do that. I couldn't do it to her, and I couldn't do it to me. It was just so wrong on many levels for me personally. So I said, look, I'm going to stop the recording and I'm going to talk to you human to human, and just do some breathing and find a friend, get away from all the journalists because it's not helping you at this moment in time. And that day was a really challenging day for me at work. And the next day I woke up and I thought, I can't do this anymore. And it was such a strong, I can't do it. So I think I worked the rest of my hours or whatever I had to do, and then I left. And I had to be in this void, in this space of nothing. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I had no idea. I didn't have a clue, but I knew that I couldn't do that any longer. I had no idea why I'd put myself through the university course and all of these things for what seemed to be nothing. And as I'm saying it, my whole body, I've got full, I call it fairy fizzies. It's like the tingles, goosebumps whooshing over me.
I'm getting the same, because I
Are you?
feel like this is really important, because so many people at the moment are out of their comfort zone in that void. That's what this time is asking of people. And I feel what you're about to say is going to be very important for people.
Oh, thank you. Well, it was certainly important for me, but I had no idea what I was just in this, like the empty-handed leap into the void. I was in the void. I had no idea what I was going to do. It felt like this journey, what had it been for? And I'm not even sure how long I sat in that space for. It was quite a long time. And when I kind of gathered myself and came to, I thought, right, okay, Karen, let's look at what things can look like moving forward for you. And I thought, okay, what are my skills? And I thought, well, I've got journalism skills, I've got this and this. And I'd done some TV researching prior to that, the whole thing. So I had a lot of experience. And I was like, but what is your passion? And it was like, well, fairies are my passion. And when I say fairies, it's connecting to the earth, it's nature spirits, it's this deep rooted connection that we have. And I wanted to share about that. So I thought, okay, let's just do something for fun. And I started, like, it was like a little fanzine, a fairy fanzine, because I used my journalism skills, because I was also trained in print journalism as well. So I used those skills and I just wrote about something that was in my heart that made me feel joyful. And then before I knew it, that turned into a magazine in a very quick, it all unfolded very, very quickly. And then I had an email from a distributor in America saying, oh, we've heard about your fairy magazine and we'd like to distribute it in America. And I thought it was a wind up. So I don't even think I answered that email, because I just thought it was, even back then, I think there were scams. So I thought, no, that can't be right. And then that's how little self-belief I had in myself at the time as well. Um, so the email came again, and I think it was followed up by a phone call, and I thought, okay, this is real. And they're like, did you get our email? Did you get, and I'm like, oh, it's real. And they're like, yeah. So I ended up signing a distribution contract for my magazine, which was called Fae, Fae, that stands for Fairies and Enchantment. And it's an adult fairy lifestyle magazine, in the sense of it would have folklore, fairy lifestyle, fashion, stories, poetry, arts, crafts, everything that you would associate within a fairy lifestyle. And yeah, it just did really, really well. And then from that, I can't remember the exact order because I'd also been organising spiritual events, and this was back in the mid 90s, to raise funds for the air ambulance and my children's playgroup at the time. And it was a little spiritual fair called the Earth, Health and Mystic Fairs that started in Lostwithiel Community Centre in 1994. Might have been 1995, one of those, around that time. And I was literally in the phone box going through the yellow pages, if anyone remembers the yellow pages,
Yeah.
going
Feels like
through
a
the
different
new
world, doesn't it?
different world. It's crazy. And I was like, yeah, we didn't have Google back then. And I was going through the phone box under the, I think there was a, I don't know if it was called the New Age section, or there was an area of like quirky things in the, and I was cold calling people saying, I'm doing this fair and it's for charity and I'd really like you to come. And I managed to fill the place up. There was one fairy stall turned up at that point, and it wasn't a fairy event, but it obviously was open to that. And it sold out, and then I did another one, and that sold out, and there was workshops, and it just evolved, and it was really from my heart. And then that kind of evolved into fairy events, so it became the Fairy Angel and Healing Fair. And then I found that some of the angel people didn't like the fairy people, and some of the fairy people, it was all like a little bit, this is really interesting. And then it very quickly just became fairy events. and
And that's where
and
we met at one of your beautiful fairy events in Glastonbury. And
oh
Violet
wow,
Skies, the
yeah,
my last guest,
yes,
the Violet Flame. That's where I met her as well.
yeah, she said that you were there. Oh, that's so lovely. Well, they were in the fairs, started in Cornwall. And actually, the first fairy ball that I ever did was in a venue called the Acorn, which is very uh, well, it's great, isn't it? An acorn, and from that acorn, that was in 2006, the first fairy ball, and
Right.
now it's kind of grown into a mighty oak, really, with not just my events, but lots of different fairy events and festivals all around the UK, and obviously they're around the world too. But there was nothing like it when I started, and I really did go out on a limb, and it was all part of this trust process. So the first fairy ball, I thought, okay, I can organise events. That's another one of my skills. What can I do with this? Well, I love fairies. Let's do a fairy ball. First of all, I thought, what would my ideal night out look like? That was the first thought, because even though I'd grown up as like a gothic punk kind of person in London, that had obviously changed. I'd outgrown that, but I have always been a bit of a party girl at heart. But I didn't want that abrasive pub energy, or the that abrasive energy. I wanted to be able to go out, have fun, dress up, express my inner fairy, and just be amongst others. So that was the idea behind the very first fairy ball, and that sold out as well. And that was just word
Gorgeous.
of mouth. People were just, oh, there's this happening, there's that happening, and I couldn't believe it, really, although I did.
And your work seems to embrace that playfulness and fun. You know, you talk
Yeah,
about putting on fairy wings and having a fairy party. And
yeah,
you, do you feel that people being really drawn to this, that it's something missing in our world? You know, that
yeah,
playfulness. We cannot take things so seriously, can't
yes,
we?
yeah. The world is very serious. It can be a very serious place, and we're bombarded from these little boxes of media, like with everything's doom and gloom and everything. But actually, we all have that inner child. It's still a part of us, whether we choose to cover her or him over and just be, I've got to be an adult now. We can still be an adult and embrace our inner child and that playfulness. And it keeps you healthy, it keeps you young, it keeps you happy. There's all these different things that when you're playing in life, and I do perceive life as a playground, because I'm in a body and I'm going to make the most of it, because I know that I'll go back to light, and I am light anyway, but I won't have the body at some point. So while I've got it, I'm just going to play and have fun and spread my inner light out into the world. And I feel like when it happens, it is contagious in a really beautiful way, because people might come to the events not really knowing what it is. Because the other thing I do with the fairy fairs, when I moved them to Glastonbury in 2009, so I think overall I'm celebrating 21 years of the fairy balls
Oh,
this autumn.
congratulations. What an amazing achievement, because they're so popular.
It's
And
crazy how
like you mentioned, embracing that inner child so that we can play. And
yeah,
then another aspect of that is our imagination.
yeah,
And you're really allowing that to develop and be free, at
yes,
these fairy events, but also in the work that you're encouraging, because it's kind of like, as adults, it's almost like, all fairies, that's for, making fairy potions. Like
yeah,
you're, reading your stuff, it took me back to my childhood, making daisy chains. I used to do the same, the rose potions and things like this. But it made me think, well, what happened to all of that? Because
yeah,
it's just something I made daisy chains again with my own children, but it's not something I necessarily sit and do as an adult. So it's really allowing that imagination to rise again, and that creativity, because you're talking about art, poetry, singing.
yeah.
Do you see this as being an important doorway into the spiritual?
Yeah, most definitely, because I feel when we're happy, when we're, and you can't force happiness, but you can do things that can encourage happiness. And that's what I talk about in my book, the fairy whispering book, this one, yay.
Yay.
So I talk about, well, there's 111 different ways to connect in with the fairies, and I'll just kind of quickly say, fairy for me, fairies, the name is the umbrella for the elemental kingdom, the nature spirits, spirits of nature. And it helps us to connect back into the earth. And I think that is really, really important, to be grounded, especially when we're allowing our imagination to soar free. So the more things we can do to lift and raise our vibration, the more joy there is. It just magnetizes in. And I do get people say to me, how can you be happy all the time? Well, I'm not happy all the time. Sometimes I'll wake up a little bit grumpy. I'm human, but I have techniques and ways to change it very quickly. In fact, when Violet was staying here once, there's some quite intense things happening going on in the working part of my world, and it was quite challenging. So I just put on this really loud music and got up and just started dancing, and I danced that energy out. And she
Yes.
was like, wow, you shifted that energy so quickly. It's like, I haven't got time to sit in that energy. We have a choice. Like, we do have a choice. And it's not a judgment on anyone, because sometimes it's quite nice to be a bit indulgent and sit and stew in that energy and experience, oh, this is what that feels like. But I'm much happier when I'm out in the authentic, joyful inner child part of myself, when it's coming out. So I do think it does enhance the spiritual aspects of life. And I think everything we do is spiritual anyway, even the bits that aren't so fun. But being uplifted definitely, and it doesn't only raise your own vibration, it raises the vibration of those around you. If you walk into a room and everyone's grumpy, you will feel it as an empath, as somebody who's sensitive. Even if you're not, you'll feel if that room is full of grumpy people. Likewise, when you come into the fairy events, for example, and there's just this light, fizzy, sparkly, upbeat energy, even if you don't know what it is, even if you don't believe in fairies, it doesn't matter, because you're touching that energy energetically, and it is uplifting.
Yeah, and finding your own joy. Like for me, it's singing. We actually have regular karaoke parties, and we live in a small rural community in Portugal, and we bring in all the community and we sing together, and it just feels such a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I love singing. Singing is a big part of me. I mean, if I had to choose one thing, it's really hard to choose one thing, but if I had to, then singing is my first love. Like, it really is. It's my soul's expression. And singing together with people like what you've just described is just, Oh, it's beautiful. I just love the voice, and it doesn't have to be technically perfect or professional. It's just that release, that self-expression.
And everybody
So
coming from their heart and expressing in their own way, singing, choosing
yeah,
their own song. It's just
yeah,
such a beautiful journey. And it's often children, children and adults and mums and daughters singing together, and it's just gorgeous.
yeah, I love that.
You mentioned earlier the connection between fairies and nature. And
Yeah,
I know that you've spoken about fairies being guardians of flowers, trees, crystals.
yeah,
Can you speak into that a little bit more?
yeah, of course. So everything that grows on this planet has, I say, a fairy energy. You can call it an elemental energy, a spirit, a life force. Everything has that. So whether it is plants, trees, flowers, crystals, rocks, mountains, every single thing that grows, and that is the life force, the guardian of that particular thing, whatever it might be. And we can tune in and connect in with that if we choose. Some people are naturally aware of it. Some people might be aware of it but not want to label it. We don't have to label it. I only label it for because it helps when you're trying to talk about what you're talking about. And it is a connection that many people have forgotten and have become disconnected from the earth, like our mother, Gaia, whatever label you want to call this beautiful planet that we're on. And especially when people are living in cities, there can be this disconnect. I'm very blessed. I moved from London to Cornwall many, many years ago. So I'm surrounded by the ocean, nature. I've got it everywhere. And I am grateful for that every single day. Every time I go out, whether it's just a mundane kind of thing to the shops, I'll see like flowers growing out of the walls or whatever it might be. I just love nature. And it's something that I feel like most people do love nature, but not everybody is physically connected to it. So even simple things like going barefoot on the ground, on the grass, or on the sand, feeling the water of a lake on your ankles, or going full in if you do the swimming, the wild swimming, just feeling that physical connection, because a charge is created and we are charged up by that. Literally, it gives us energy when we connect. So there are practical reasons for doing it as well as joyful reasons, and just being grateful for this planet gives us everything we need. Everything we need very often is growing on our own doorsteps. So perhaps the study of essential oils, herbalism, maybe people want to do foraging. It's all there. Everything is there for us. We actually don't need anything else. But in our societies, in this modern way of living, we are taught and told that we do need lots of other things, but actually everything is there. And it's doing the reconnect. And I love the forest schools that are happening for children that you hear about,
Yes.
where they're doing that directly, and the difference that makes to them. It's so good for mental health, for spiritual health, for physical health, to have that connection. Get your hands muddy, get some dirt under your nails, get some real physical connection, or sit against a tree with the tree's permission, obviously.
So if someone was wanting to connect with fairies, are you more likely to send them off into the forest than into a meditation hall? People wanting
Well,
to connect.
yeah, so the first thing, and I realise not everybody is able to, that somebody might be living in a high rise tower block in the middle of a city and might not have access to any trees, or might not physically be able to get there. So that's the beauty of the imagination. But really, if you can, be out in nature physically if you can, but it isn't a barrier to connecting with nature. So even if you are in a tower block, bring in a plant, a house plant, because that plant will have a fairy energy with it, and you can connect with that. So there are different ways, and if you can't do that, then if you can look at a screen, I know it's not ideal, but you can watch a video of trees and nature and connect in that way. Or if you don't want to do that, you can close your eyes and just imagine it in your mind. We all pretty much know what a tree looks like. So, but initially, yes, I would say if you are able to get out into nature, go and find a tree. And I'll do a super quick little connecting with fairies. It's super quick. This is when people say, how can I do it? Go out into nature, imagine it, do it physically, go up to the tree, ask permission to approach the tree in your heart, in your mind, or out loud. Usually the tree will say yes. You'll feel it. You may not hear a yes, but you'll feel the yes. And then sit down with your back against the tree. Feeling the connection, the strength, the wisdom, and imagining roots coming from your feet, going down deep into the earth and combining with the roots of the tree, anchoring you into the earth. Feel that, breathing into that, absorbing that beautiful energy and releasing any cares or concerns into the earth to be transmuted back into love. And then in your mind or out loud say, fairies, fairies, come to me as I sit beside this tree. So it is, and so may it be, for the highest good of all. And then you can just stay in this space for as short or as long as you wish, being receptive to any signs, any sounds, any feelings. Being receptive, and if you're able to do this in person, then you may see an insect or an animal acting in an unusual way. Perhaps a leaf will fall in front of you, or a feather. It could be anything at all. There are no rules with Fairyland. And that is a very short and sweet way for you to connect with the fairies.
That was amazing what happened. You started and it started raining so heavily.
Oh, what really
I didn't
raining?
hear a word of it. It was really good that you were doing a meditation, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to keep track of so it's still raining a little bit. We might just need to pause just for a second.
I can't hear it, but yeah, that of course, whatever suits you.
I think it's going to be okay now, because I can hear you now. But it was like absolutely like the heavens opened.
So funny. That is the water elementals coming in to say hello.
It was literally as you started, it was almost like you preempted that. So that was really interesting.
I love it.
It feels really appropriate to do a card reading as well, because it feels like we're in a really grounded place. Yeah. So I'd just love to invite that as well, Karen.
So I would absolutely love to share a card from my forthcoming deck, the Enchanted Realms Oracle. And this fairy, this is a flyer of the cover of the deck, and it's a fairy holding a glimmer of hope. And this glimmer of hope is for all of us. So whatever is going on in your world, in our world, there is always a glimmer. It might be hiding in our hearts, it could be hiding somewhere, but we always have it. And it's so important because hope can see us through. The glimmer of hope can see us through anything. And believe me, I've had to use my glimmer of hope many times in my life. And it's the only thing that got me through. So it's very important. So I'm shuffling. I'm so excited to see what message will come out from this deck for the collective. And it doesn't matter when you're watching this, whether it's on replay, whether it's a year down the line, it doesn't matter, because you're here for a reason and you're hearing it for a reason. So let's see. And I'm still getting used to this deck, so let's see what's going to come out. Oh, I sometimes they that kind of hopped a little bit, didn't it? Sanctuary. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. Okay, So this is about your hearth, your home, your sanctuary. It doesn't have to be a physical place. It's actually within us. We all have it. So it doesn't matter where we are in the world, what we're doing, what's going on. That sanctuary is within. Some of us are blessed to have been able to manifest an outer sanctuary. It might be a little cabin, or it might be a home. You might have an actual fire in your home, which would be amazing. And it's about just nurturing yourself. Maybe a little bit of escapism from this world if it's getting too much for you, with the complexities of being a human. Sometimes we need to just move away from that and use our imaginations to maybe read a book or do a craft or art. Even if you don't have to be a professional artist, or maybe sing like we were talking about earlier. We can sing something that brings peace to your heart, joy to your heart, and that will charge up your inner sanctuary. And the more we recharge our inner sanctuary, the more we are able to then start to manifest our outer sanctuary in a physical way. Whatever that might mean, it will mean different things to different people. Some people might want a sanctuary in a cave. Some people might want, it doesn't, there's so many variations. We all know what it is for us personally. So this sanctuary card is coming through to remind you, keep the hope in your heart, keep the joy in your heart. Just escape a little bit. Sometimes it's okay. It's not running away. It's not denying the reality, whatever that might be, but taking some time out, go into your sanctuary, whatever's going on for you, to redress, to rebalance, to realign. And then whatever you bring into that space, you can then manifest in your outer space. I hope that makes sense.
Beautiful. That's so resonant, because when the world goes crazy outside, which is what's happening at the moment, it becomes even more important to go within and build that sense of safety and stability within.
Yeah, definitely. And just to say as well, I don't watch the news anymore, even though it used to be my job. Like, I haven't watched it for ages, but I'm still aware of what's going on in the world. And it's not love and light, is it, that's being pushed out? Although we are surrounded by love and light as well. I wish that was on the news. That was my job originally, my mission, but didn't really happen that way. It's happening in a different way now.
I don't watch the news either, but unfortunately we've got like news in our pockets with our mobile phones now. So I guess it's like training the algorithms.
Yeah. And I think it can be good if you're in a kind of mentally stable place, to be aware of what's going on in the world.
Yes.
It's like not like putting our heads in the sand, but equally we don't have to buy into those stories the way they're being sold to us, because I'm also aware of how it works on the other side.
Not being consumed by it, isn't it? So we can hold our vibration.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's been absolutely amazing chatting with you. Is there anything that you'd like to share that we haven't spoken about, or do the fairies have any kind of last messages? Because, after all these years of working with the fairies, what do you believe they're trying to tell us or teach us?
Well, there are a couple of things. So the fairies want us to love the planet as much as they do. And on a practical level, if that means swapping out a chemical household product for a more environmental one, it can be as simple as that. It can be as simple as picking up a bit of litter when you're out, looking after and loving the environment. They primarily are guardians of nature. A beautiful bonus of connecting with fairies is that they are magical too. So that's a bonus of it. But really their main message is to love and look after the planet. And the thing that I didn't talk about, that I'll just say briefly, is that Violet may have mentioned it, I don't know, she works with me on this. We're doing the Three Wishes Fairy Festival 20th anniversary in August. Yeah, that's the 21st, 22nd, 23rd of August at Godney Garslade Farm in Godney near Glastonbury, and there are day tickets. You can come for one day or the whole time. It's a very, it is what I've just been talking about, expressing your inner fairy, but with a whole group of people, like hundreds of people in that same vibration. It's very lovely. Everyone's welcome. All are welcome who come in peace. That's the only rule. Yeah.
I'll put all your links and the details about the Three Wishes Festival in the video description below as well. And I got inspired by your little chat there, and to ask one more question. Do you feel that fairies have helped you see the magic and miracles in everyday life?
Yes. 100 million trillion gazillion %. Yes. They can be bossy because sometimes I hear them in a telepathic way, like as a voice. It's not my own voice. I am mature enough in human years to know the sound of my own internal dialogue. So when the fairies come in, they come in with a sound, a vibration, a feeling, and they can get a bit, I want to say, bossy with me, but always, and I always say this, like, I could say, all the voices told me to do it. Like, you have to always tune in. Remember that we are sovereign. So if the voices tell us to do something, if we don't like it, we don't have to do it. We don't have to do it. But the fairies know me. We've built this friendship over many, many years, maybe many lifetimes. So they know that I'm very likely the one who is willing to take a risk with things. And there is a whole other story about the festival. I won't go into it now because we've used our time very beautifully. But they can get a bit bossy. But yeah, they communicate, they whisper, that's why the book's called Fairy Whispering, like the whispers of the fae, however that comes in. And I'm not the only one. Like, I am not the only fairy whisperer. There are many people who can connect with nature. I'm just the one who's talking about it right now.
Well, I'm pleased you are talking about it, because you've really opened up a whole world for people, and a world that brings a lot of joy and hope at this time.
Yes,
so
yes.
Thank you so much for your wisdom and everything that you're bringing through, and all these incredible events that you're, what better way for us to raise our vibration than coming together in a joyful way.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah.
It's been an absolute joy talking with you, Karen. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone at home for listening in. Bye for now.